G-Bag Nation, Mike Fisher, Ari Temkin with you on 105.3 The Fan.
If you are a consumer of media in DFW and beyond, this man needs no introduction. Here's Dale HANSEN. Dale?
I think that about sums it up. I'm kind of flattered that I think it does.
Dale HANSEN, of course, WFAA for many years at Channel 8, after having gotten fired at every other job he ever had. It finally worked.
No, that's not true. That's not true. There were two jobs. This part is true. Here's something else that nobody else knows. Actually, I've only been fired from 8 of those jobs, but the other two jobs of 11, the other 2 jobs I left under very heated circumstances.
There you go.
Yeah, I got in a big fight. My first job was at Dial Finance. I was a bill collector, and I got in a big fight with the manager, and I quit before I might have been fired. And then the first broadcasting job I had, they offered me a lot of money, I mean, by my standards back then, to stay. And he then changed the terms of the contract, and we got into a big heated argument, and I quit. So I've been fired from 8, and I left 2 under very, very difficult circumstances.
All right, this time you're leaving Channel 8, and it's half your idea at least, right?
Well, I certainly hope so. Yeah, I'm doing everything I can to make sure it stays that way. I really am.
I called you the other day. Of course, Dale HANSEN announcing his retirement. September 2nd is your last broadcast. Do you have something big, all special planned for September 2nd?
I've got a farewell address that I hope will rival Dwight Eisenhower's farewell address. But no, I have nothing. I do have plans for kind of a weekend of parties, quite frankly, and then but on September 2nd, I kind of like it. I've got a little farewell address that kind of sums up everything and hopefully puts a bow on it and calls it a night.
In DFW media, beginning of September is that's the best time of year. You just couldn't endure another Cowboys season, Dale?
No, that was part of it. I really didn't want to. I'll be honest with you. I really didn't want to. And there was some initial talk about staying through the end of the year. And then it became, because I do think this, of course, I've said this a lot, but I do think this should be a pretty good Cowboys team.
Yeah.
And I said, if I stay through the end of the year, what do we do about January? Right. And then, would you stay through January? And I said, well, yeah, all right, I'll stay through January. And I said, if they go to the Super Bowl, now we're into February,
right?
Which is a major rating book for television stations. I said, do you really want me to quit like the first week of February during, And so now we're into March, and all the Rangers are in spring training. I said, okay, now I definitely quit. But it was all of that. And I think in all seriousness, that it was a mutually agreed upon date that let's get out in September before the football season starts, make it a clean break, and then it's all clean from thereafter for the Dallas Cowboys and just as importantly, obviously, for Channel 8.
What do you think among people that don't know you, viewers, et cetera, what do you think your reputation is?
Among people who don't know me?
Yeah. Let me put it another way. The people that actually know you, again, he's a blowhard and he's arrogant and he's funny and he's smart. But I said this earlier, and I mean this. I don't want to make you cry. You don't have a bad bone in your body. Not a one. You don't have a mean bone in your body. Not really. I don't think the audience knows that.
No.
I don't think people know that.
I think people who don't know me. I mean, one, I think for the one I've always found funniest for years and years. I've been, many people consider me to be a racist, which I said, really, are you just not paying attention at all?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this buddy of mine, James Marsh. Big, James, of course. Big record promoter nationally. And he always used to tell me years ago, I think I pretty much put a cork in that stupid bottle over the years. But yeah, I think people do think that I'm a little more hardcore. I'm a little more belligerent. I'm a little more edgy or whatever you want to call it than I actually am. Again, I really do appreciate you saying that because my wife will tell you I'm a very wishy-washy guy. Whenever we have issues with whether it's the landscapers or the plumbers or the people, I have Chris call them. I'm not the guy. I'm not a confrontational guy. I don't like to belittle people. I don't. I know that somewhat contradicts what I may or may not do on the air on occasion, but I think people think that. I don't think people who don't know me have a true picture of me. Although I think in many ways I try my best to be a relatively an open book.
Okay, and one of the things that you do though that's not an open book, you're running a scam because you pretend that you're not working hard. Which gives you an excuse on the rare times when you don't work hard. You go, what do you expect? I don't work hard. But the fact is, before we got to TV sports, we're now. What do you do? 30 seconds a night, 4 days a week, or what do you do on TV now?
It's getting close. No, here's I do get this. In fact, I just finished writing the 10 o'clock sportscast for tonight. I do 3.5 minutes. Okay, out of the 3.5 minutes, a minute and a half of that will be a package report tonight that Mike Leslie's doing on this young gal from Irving.
Right.
Then there'll be like 30 seconds of sound from the Mavericks and the TCU baseball team. So 2 minutes of the 3.5, I'm not saying a word. And then in that remaining minute and a half, about a minute of that is covered up with pictures. And luckily, because of how I look now and how I have looked for the last several years, I'm only on camera about 15 seconds a night.
Yeah, I put on Twitter that you're going to come on, and I was looking for a flattering picture, and I finally gave up.
There hasn't been, as I will go to my grave argue this. In my day, I was stunning.
Yeah.
I mean, I was stunning. Unfortunately, my day was about 40 years ago.
Dale Hansen with us here on T-Bag Nation with Mike Fisher and Ari. Go ahead, Ari.
So, I mean, you're not going to be able to not have your opinions out there. Like you've done this for so long. What are you going to do, especially when it comes to the all-important sports opinions that you're going to be holding dear to your
Well, that's what people have been. That's the question that almost everybody's throwing at me, especially those close to me and my friends and the like. And I tell you the truth, I don't think my so-called hot sports opinions or hardcore sports opinions are that important to me, which is one of the reasons I've decided that it absolutely is time for me to retire. Is that I'm not as intrigued and interested in arguing about Dak Prescott's new contract. Whether the Cowboys should or should not go after Julio Jones or Joey Gallo. Do they keep him? Do they get rid of him? I'm bored with that.
But you've recently touched onto the deeper subjects of sports, the subcontext. So what about that stuff?
That I'm deeply interested in, and I do think there is that sports connection with it. But the social issues that we're dealing with in America. I just wrote a piece for them. We have a little AM thing that I do in the mornings, a 60-second, and it's 90% of the time it's some sports related little. I call it my mini rant, if you will. But tomorrow morning I'm writing about Memorial Day and all the flack that the Vice President Kamala Harris was receiving for her tweet about enjoy your long weekend and people wishing me a happy Memorial Day, which I've never understood the concept of where that phrase comes from, because there's nothing happy about the day, in my opinion. And again, I've said this. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'd kind of like to whether it's on the banquet circuit, whether it's on the speaking circuit, whether it's on, I don't see myself doing a podcast or something. But maybe dip my toe into some radio work from time to time, doing commentaries / opinions / sports / social issues. If I can find something like that, I probably will. If not, I'll make that trip to the Grand Canyon that I've been putting off for about 25 years because I still want to see that place.
Number one, you've never seen the Grand Canyon?
No, never have.
Number two, if you go on the banquet circuit, try a salad, Dale. For God's sake. No, I'm just kidding.
This is the only reason I look this way is because I've been eating nothing but fried chicken and barbecue for years and years and years. But I'm working at it. I've lost. Because I always tell you, I think I've lost some weight. I'm picking a great time to finally get in shape. But I've had a couple of. This will shock everybody. I've had a couple of medical issues that have somewhat flared up because of my previous 50 years. So I'm doing some things better now, which is kind of an odd time to do it. Obviously,
no, there's never too late. But you know what, Dale?
That's what I'm trying to convince myself. But it is one of the single biggest regrets I have. People forget this, but I used to be thin. I used to be in shape. I used to be a runner, all that kind of good stuff. And seriously, and I owe an apology to almost everybody, whether it's the viewer, whether it's the lovely Mrs. Hansen, whatever. But the fact that I'm probably a good 4 to 5 pounds overweight is really frustrating to me. You know, I've got a good 5 pounds that I probably need to lose. And but yeah, I told Mike Leslie this the other day because we're sitting on the patio having a little glass of wine, and I said, do me a favor, because he works out about 4 nights a week.
Oh, yeah.
He works out hard. And I said, Mike, do me a favor. Don't stop that. Don't stop.
Yeah.
I used to do it, got away from it, enjoyed my nightlife, as you well know. I don't make any apologies for it. Not quite the nightlife. Kind of another thing you talk about. I've always enjoyed that. I swear to you, and the lovely Mrs. Hansen really hates it, quite frankly. But I've always enjoyed the image of the Dean Martin. Hell, I'm drunk and I just stumbled into the station and I'm just making it up on the fly. I kind of enjoy that for some stupid reason. I kind of enjoy that image. As I said to somebody one time when they get very critical, I said, how is it possible that my highlights of my shows are always on time? They're always perfectly timed. My shows never run out of order. My highlights, 99.9% of the time, I'm dead on point. Because I just made it up drunk when please. And again, I think you know that. I think most people know that. But I'm not denying that I probably have on more than one occasion been overserved by an irresponsible bartender. And I enjoy that lifestyle. But I told Mike, you just can't let that become your lifestyle. And I have a great regret about that. I truly do. That looking back, if I had it to do all over again, I'd have probably done it a little cleaner than I have. But I don't look back very often. So.
Do you have regret about, if I recall the story right, when ESPN was first starting up, well, it was going to be in Connecticut and nobody was going to watch it. They weren't going to pay very much. Weren't you good? Didn't you have a chance to be like you and Chris Berman, kind of?
The guy said to me, I swear to you, the guy said to me, we're going to make you the next Brent Musburger of ESPN. And people forget this, but in those days, in the early 80s, that was a heck of a compliment. I mean, that was a pretty big deal. And they wanted me, according to this guy, they wanted me to be the next Brent Musburger for ESPN. But at that time, they were just getting started. Yeah. It was Connecticut, which I wasn't the least bit interested in. They were doing nothing but, rodeos and log
high school softball and right.
Yeah, all the, and the guy says to me, he says, no, Bill, you don't understand. We're going to get into football. We're going to get into basketball. We're going to have everything. And when I turned it down, he said, well, at least fly up and talk to us about it. And I said, no, I'm not even interested in doing that, which I wasn't. My 12-year-old son was hearing about the conversation one night, and my 12-year-old son looked at me and said, you're turning down ESPN? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, do you know what you just done? I'm like, no, apparently I don't. Well, at the same time, no. In answer to your question, no. I some of my best friends like to put it this way, and there's probably some truth to it. I don't think I'd have been happy and successful at ESPN. I really don't. At the same time, as some of my very best friends said, I really enjoy being the big fish in a smaller pond. Mm. And I think there might be some truth to that. My real satisfaction is hanging out with Aikman and Daryl Johnston and Michael Irvin and dealing one-on-one with guys that I know and I see and I follow, and the Rolando Blackmans and, the coaches that I've dealt with and played golf with and all the rest of it. I'm not interested in talking about how's Philadelphia going to do against Washington. Yeah. I'm not interested in how Buffalo's going to do against San Diego this week. I never have been, and I doubt that I ever would have been. So I do wonder sometimes, quite honestly, what I might have been able to do. But I absolutely don't have any regrets about it because I'm pretty comfortable with what I've done. As arrogant as I'm sure that sounds, now that I hear myself say it out loud, I'm pretty comfortable with what my life has been.
We talk a lot about legacies in sports, Dale. but we're talking mostly about the legacies of the athletes we cover. In this case, I'm going to ask you about your legacy. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want Dallas sports fans to remember you as?
Well, again, this probably sounds somewhat arrogant, but as I always say, there won't be a marker in the ground because I'm just going to burn myself up and throw the ashes out there. But if there was a time that they wanted to remember me, or if there was a marker in the ground, I want people to walk by and say, "Did you ever hear what that man said about civil rights in America? Did you ever hear that man talk about his granddaughter? Did you ever hear that man talk about Michael Sam?" That's what I hope people remember. And again, if that's arrogant, so be it. But I've done nothing in sports, and I've done a few things in sports that I think are worth, consideration, if you will. But nothing means as much to me as the Michael Sam commentary and the commentaries that I've written about black-white issues in America, most of them driven by my granddaughter, and the impact that I know those commentaries have had. And I've changed the minds of some people. One of my very best friends is a hardcore conservative guy, and he'll call me after a commentary and he says, "Damn, you're hard to argue with." And I'm like, well, I hope so. And again, we disagree on just about everything, but every so often he'll tell me, I've been thinking about what you said. And that's all I've ever wanted people to do. I think this is what people misunderstand about me. Well, obviously, I believe what I say. I don't make it up. I'm not Skip Bayless here. I believe in what I say, which might scare some people, but it's true. While I absolutely believe I'm right, people say to me, "Well, you always think you're right." Well, of course I do. I wouldn't say it if I didn't think I was right.
Everybody does, yeah.
Right? Other than Bayless, who just says something that they may not well believe.
Right. Well, there's Bayless, and then there's a generation of kids who think that's the way you do it, which takes me to my final point with you, Dale Hansen.
Oh, my gosh. But I'm saying I believe it, and all I ever want you to do is think about it.
Right.
Obviously, I think I'm right, but all I want you to do is think, and I hope I've done that.
Okay, so your legacy obviously is going to include your willingness to punch the big guy, whether it's in a literal sense, getting punched by Barry Switzer, or SMU, or conflicts with Jerry, but with always with a twinkle in your eye. But I must tell you to your face, your legacy for those of us who have worked with you and been mentored by you is a completely different thing. When I first came to town, I was nothing and nobody. And Dale Hansen, you took me under your wing. We didn't work at the same TV station. You had no obligation to me. You were just nice. And there's got to be thousands of me who feel the same way, and that's your legacy.
Well, I hope so. I had Mike Ducey when he first came to town, and he took over the Cowboys radio broadcaster for a while. And I had Ducey and his wife and kids out to the house, and again, part of that is because I wasn't very well received when I came to Dallas, and in particular, Vern Lundquist and I were butting heads a lot, and I'm thinking, no. I made a comment when I first came to Dallas, which I think offended Vern, but it was the highest compliment I could give him. They actually put a videotape in when I was interviewing at Channel 4 at the time. They put a videotape in of Vern's sportscast, and they said, "Can you do that?" And I said, "Well, I could, but I won't." And I said, "Your problem is that you're trying to beat Vern Lundquist as Vern Lundquist light, and it can't be done." So the story eventually hits the paper, and I said, "I don't want." They said, "Well, you're not doing it like Vern does it." I said, "No, I can't." I said, "Nor would I." And all I meant by that is that I'm going to carve out my piece of the pie and do it my way. I think Vern was legitimately offended by it, mistakenly so, in my opinion. And quite honestly, as a result of that, I wasn't very well received at all. And I made a promise then that if indeed I ever do have the opportunity, I'm not going to do that to other people. And I think, and I hope you're serious when you say that, because I know I've tried to be that guy that, obviously you're not on my level, Fish. You've never been on my level. You know.
You mean because I weigh half as much as you?
I'm not going to be that guy. I'm doing a birthday greeting for a friend tonight, a kid named Jamie Grout, and he's been on radio in Central Iowa for like 40-some years. I met him when he was 15 years old, and he came to the radio station. I ended up hiring him for a weekend nighttime shift when he was like 17 years old. And now the kid's been a morning disc jockey in central Iowa for, 40 years, voted the most popular guy, all that kind of stuff. And his wife sent me a note, and she said, and Jamie's stayed in touch with me all these years later. And they said he never hardly makes it through the week without mentioning how Dale Hansen treated him like he was a big deal.
Yep.
I'm like, no, I mean, again, I didn't have a lot of people doing that for me. So I've tried as best I can to do it for everybody else.
Well, you did it. You did it for me, but you just undid it with your latest comment. But that's fine.
Dale, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
When have you ever known me not to go for the punchline?
I know.
Someplace,
Thank you, Dale.
Congratulations on an incredible career.
It's a pleasure, boys. And I'm telling you, Fish, I don't know why you don't have it. I'll say it on the air for you because I know you know that I mean it. You've always had the best radio show in town by far, and I don't know why you don't have a bigger one now. And I am dead serious about that. You do amazing radio work, and somebody is missing the boat by not giving you a full-time slot on a regular basis. And now we're done.
Thanks, Dale.
All right, buddy.
Fish doesn't
See ya. Take care.